Contempt proceedings moving forward against Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI. He is in possession of an FD1023 form that apparently implicates Joe Biden and the Biden crime family in a $5 million bribery scheme, saying that some foreign national communicated with Sleepy Joe and he was paid $5 million to do something, literally implement policy changes that would serve this client's ends. Comey and other people in the Senate like Chuck Grassley have gotten information about this form through FBI whistleblowers and DOJ and IRS whistleblowers, and they demanded via official formal congressional subpoena that the FBI deliver the document over to them. And we know how important these congressional subpoenas are because people like Steve Bannon and others have gotten prosecuted when they defied them after the January 6th Select Committee issued them. And we've had other historical examples where people like Nancy Pelosi thought that Trump people should be penalized pretty significantly for denying congressional subpoenas. So now the tables have turned. Congress is demanding answers from the FBI. James Comey got snubbed. We learned this yesterday, that the FBI is refusing to give the document over. They told us this. Today, the FBI informed the committee that it will not provide the classified documents that Congress sent a valid subpoena for. The FBI's decision to stiff-arm Congress to hide this information from the American people is obstructionist and unacceptable. While I have a call scheduled with FBI Director Wray today, which we have an update on, we're going to discuss his response. The committee has been clear in its intent to protect congressional oversight, and we are now going to be taking steps to hold FBI Director Wray in contempt of Congress for refusing to comply with a lawful subpoena, saying America and Americans deserve the truth, and the Oversight Committee will continue to demand transparency from this agency. So they had a phone call, and we were also wondering, what the heck are they going to talk about? But apparently, it was a little bit fruitful. In fact, here is what Comey said after the post. He said, I have a call with FBI Director Wray today to discuss the FBI's refusal to comply with my subpoena. He says transparency brings accountability, and the GOP oversight will get answers. Comey showed up on Fox. Here's what he said when he was speaking to them.
Now, with more
Come on, video. We're in the middle of a live stream here.
To produce a document and go into detail on what exactly they did to investigate the validity of the document. But thus far, he won't even admit that they have the document, Sean. He's given us the runaround for 3 weeks. He's just stalling. He said there's good faith effort. They haven't produced anything. They haven't even admitted they have a document. So we don't have confidence in Director Wray. We're already in the process of drafting legislation to hold an oversight committee markup next week to hold FBI Director Wray in contempt of Congress.
Right.
All right. Let me ask you, though, most people don't know what a 1023 form is, but my understanding of it is a witness that both you and Senator Grassley describe as a credible witness that makes a very specific allegation that certain actions were taken by then Vice President Biden in exchange for money going to his family. Okay, and that credible witness has brought that to you, and you want to see the document. Now, if that's uncorroborated by the FBI, that would be something probably that would be seen in private, I would guess. Number two, I want to know if when the FBI had this document, knew about this, and what they did to investigate this.
They've had the document for 4 years.
Yeah.
We don't know if they've even investigated it. That's my fear, that they never did anything.
They just sat on it
you look
because
at what's happened with the IRS, what the IRS whistleblowers claim is they were told to stand down. There's a pattern within our federal government of when looking at any type of wrongdoing by the Biden family that people in the government bureaucracy have told rank and file government employees to stand down. Or to give them the file and don't worry about it. That's basically what Director Wray is
sitting
told
on
me.
it, burying
I have
it.
demonstrated a pattern of Joe Biden traveling all over the world, and weeks after he leaves the country, his family starts mysteriously getting wires from that foreign country into shell companies that then are wired back to the individual family bank account.
Let me ask you this.
That's not normal behavior.
What
if you're in the Biden
what
family.
would the contempt of the FBI director look like? All right, you've now given him 2 opportunities. You have a phone call with him. They're saying they're cooperating, but they're not going to give you the document. Of course, your committee and Congress has not only a right, but a duty in terms of oversight. What would a subpoena look like in your view? Or contempt ultimately of Congress look like?
Well, we're still drafting it, but it's going to look very similar to what the Democrats did did with Steve Bannon. I mean, that was a perfect example of a congressional committee holding someone in contempt of Congress.
Yes.
But for Director Wray to issue a statement
well,
just
it
a few
didn't matter
minutes
for
ago saying
Lois Lerner, if my memory serves me. It didn't matter for Eric Holder and others that were held in contempt. You know, it seems like those rules only apply to conservatives, Congressman.
Well, we're going to do everything we can to hold him accountable, and we're not messing around. We've already demonstrated a pattern of behavior here that would suggest this is a credible accusation, and we want answers.
All right, that is Representative James Comer, and he's saying we're going to get to the bottom of this. And Steve Bannon was somebody who was prosecuted. Now, the problem here is that Congress, typically, like what happened with the Liz Cheney Scam Select Committee hearings, is she referred the non-compliance with the congressional subpoena over to the DOJ. And the DOJ back then was Joe Biden. And so they prosecuted Steve Bannon, and he went on trial, and he's going to be sentenced, or was already sentenced, I think 60 days. If I remember correctly, but I think it's on appeal. So there's all sorts of stuff going on there. But this is now the Republicans' turn. The Democrats are snubbing their noses. The FBI is in control of the Biden DOJ. So when Congress refers Wray over to the DOJ and say, prosecute this man, just like you prosecuted Steve Bannon, who was also in Trump's administration at one point in time, go and prosecute the FBI. The Biden DOJ is going to be so corrupt, obviously, that they're going to say, no, thank you for the congressional referral, but we're not prosecuting our own side. The FBI is protecting Joe Biden, who runs the DOJ. So obviously we're not going to go and investigate and uncover something that implicates our boss. That would be nuts. Now, apparently the oversight talked with the FBI. Here's what they tell us. They say, today, breaking news. FBI Director Wray, during their phone call today, has confirmed the existence of the FD1023. So it does exist in their drawer somewhere, probably under Christopher Wray's mattress. There is a form alleging that then Vice President Biden engaged in a criminal bribery scheme with a foreign national. Wray tells Comer, says he's allowing this unclassified record to be reviewed at the FBI, but he hasn't produced it to the committee. Well, you can come over here and look in our office. You can't copy anything. You can't take anything. You can't take pictures of anything, but you can come have a look at it there. So he says, that's not good enough for me. If the FBI fails to hand over the FD1023 form as required by the subpoena, James Comer will begin contempt of Congress proceedings. So presumably that will be starting very soon. Now, other FBI directors were asked about this, including this guy. You remember Comey? He got asked about Christopher Wray. What do you think about him? Is he just a good guy, or what's going on here?
Chair James Comer, and I should note Senator Chuck Grassley will do in terms of holding Director Wray in contempt. Should he be turning over this internal document? I
don't know enough about the particular document to say, but...
Well, it's the document, you know what it is. It's got many numbers in it, but it essentially outlines what a undisclosed witness or whistleblower told officials. And this would concern the Biden family. These accusations that have not been presented with evidence, but from the Oversight Committee, the accusations they've made.
Director Wray is a person of principle, and so I'm sure he's trying to ascertain what's the right thing to do, consistent with Department of Justice policy and tradition.
That's all it is, I'm sure. Just a person of integrity, just trying to do his job appropriately without violating any internal policies, you know? I'm sure it's all it is. Has nothing to do with covering up for Joe Biden. Nothing at all to prevent the Republicans from taking charge again. No, the FBI is totally apolitical, nonpartisan, definitely. Comey, of course, who's on that same team, was working alongside with Strzok and Lisa Page and Andy McCabe and all the others, is going to continue to cover for the agency, even though he knows and was involved in most of the corruption that we were able to talk about here. This is Matt Gaetz, also explaining the power of Congress. Says, we've used other tools in the past. Now it's time for contempt.
National security apparatus who believe that they ought to make the decisions regardless of who the people elect, and that members of Congress are just like sand passing through the hourglass, and they really are the permanent existence of the government. And that's very dangerous to our republic and to our rights. We have already exposed in this Congress that the CIA was operating as an election interference organization. While all these CIA officials were telling us that the Hunter Biden laptop was a Russian information operation, the CIA itself was running a domestic information operation to interfere with the election. And what was so devious about it, when former CIA officials wouldn't sign that letter saying that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, people in the CIA used leverage points and pressure points to try to get their former employees to toe the line and to continue to push this false narrative. So that is the work we are uncovering. And I've long said we have to use the power of the subpoena and the power of the purse, but I now believe we have to use the power of contempt. Jamie Comer, you mentioned him. Yeah. He is hot on the trail right now regarding specific payments that may have been made to and through the Biden family in August of 2020. And so he's asked the FBI, give us all these specific reports that just say Biden during that month. And you know what the FBI's response was?
Too many of them.
That it was overly broad and the responsive documents might be too voluminous. 1 month for just the Biden name in the summer of 2020. That is how extensive the documentation is on the web of financial corruption around the Biden crime family.
All right. So that is Matt Gaetz saying it's time for Congress to use the power of Congress as appropriate, as articulated in the Constitution. And here is another congressperson. This is Representative Rick Perry on the Just the News program.
Your thoughts on Chris Wray's unwillingness to work with Congress?
Well, he needs to be held in contempt. Obviously, the documents don't belong to the FBI. They belong to the American people along with the truth. And it's been a long time that the FBI has overstepped its bounds and its authority. We never constructed the Stasi or the secret police in the United States of America, but that's apparently who they think they are.
And they can do whatever jobs they want. They're created and they're funded to do a job. They're not doing that job. They're just covering up for their political allies because they're partisan hacks.
And, look, unfortunately, we can't press charges, but we certainly can refer charges.
That's right.
And if he shows up on Capitol Hill, if he shows up in the House chamber, he can certainly end up in the Brig here.
Whoa.
So, look, I think those are harsh words, but we just can't have this defiance. The information, as we understand it, is not classified. Right. We don't know of any ongoing investigations where it would make a difference, and investigations that last for years and years while they essentially wait till the statute of limitations run out and that type of thing cannot be allowed. And unfortunately, they now have a track record, a verifiable track record of those
covering
kind of
up for their enemies, for their allies.
Heavy as the head that wears the crown. He's the guy at the top of the agency. Either he needs to comply or there needs to be severe consequences. The most extreme consequences that the legislative body can provide for. That's what needs to happen with an individual like him who's defiant about the truth that the American people deserve and own.
All right. So very strong language, right, from Representative Rick Perry. And a lot of people saying this is Congress just screaming and caterwauling, and this is just the Republicans going after the Democrats, and it's a bunch of just nonsense. But you remember some time ago when Nancy Pelosi was in charge, not that long ago, and they were also talking about holding Trump officials in contempt. And they were hysterical over this. They were talking about filling up the congressional jails. So this came over from Roll Call. They said that there's a Capitol basement here. This is the Lincoln Catafalque. It's seen through the bars in the chamber below the Capitol crypt. This is not the Brig. It's not the jail, but it certainly looks like one. And when Trump was president, all the Democrats and all the lefties were hysterical about this. In fact, here's one article. Speaker Pelosi, this was posted back in May 8th, 2019. Trump was still in charge. This is pre-COVID, but Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats screaming from the rooftops, "My Trump, 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 Trump." Speaker Pelosi resurfaced one of the Capitol's most enduring mysteries when answering a question about whether Democrats might imprison Trump officials who defy Congress. The House jail is what she said. When somebody asked her about it, Nancy said, "Well, we do have a little jail down here in the basement of the Capitol, but if we were arresting all of the people in the administration, we would have an overcrowded jail situation, and I'm not for that." The House Judiciary Committee approved a resolution to hold Attorney General Bill Barr in contempt of Congress over his refusal to share the full unredacted report of Robert Mueller in 2016. Even if the full House holds him in contempt, the Justice Department likely won't hand over the complete report. That has Democrats mulling other options to get it. So this is literally the reverse of this current situation. What were the Democrats screaming about? Inherent contempt. It's a long dormant power that allows Congress to rely on its own constitutional authority to detain and imprison contemners until they comply with a congressional demand. Now, Pelosi didn't go that far. She appeared to rule out using Congress's inherent contempt power to detain administration officials, but it's still a hypothetical. Even senators are fielding questions about this. A staffer in Wisconsin Democrat Tammy Baldwin's office was overheard on Tuesday answering a phone about the existence of a congressional jail. Capitol Police officers from multiple divisions say no jailhouse exists, but we do have a holding facility. So there's going to be a lot of people screaming that what the Republicans are doing here is out of bounds, outside the rules, and so on. But the Democrats do the same thing, and they were screaming from the rooftops, imprison everybody, imprison Trump, and they still want him in prison. And they don't give a damn about all of the other conditions. Now they'll sit here and scream to us about how inappropriate this is, even though they're oftentimes the same people who use the same tools and techniques. So the FBI, in possession of a document that appears to implicate Joe Biden specifically in a quid pro quo. They've been hiding the document, sitting on it for months, wanting it to expire, wanting it to become irrelevant. Congress is now moving forward, deciding to hold Christopher Wray in contempt, and we'll see what comes of it. Of course, we will continue to cover. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you are watching it.